Good evening and welcome back to In Conversation as we keep you updated on day 2 of the budget debate. With me this evening, we just listened to the brilliant presentation of, I will not attempt to call the first name that is on the
Yes,
your actual first name. I will
Sharma
call you what
Solomon.
I know you as, Mr. Sharma Solomon, which
Yes,
is easy for me
far
to
easier, far
pronounce.
easier.
We want to welcome you to In Conversation.
Thank you very much for having me, Shanika.
As I said, brilliant presentation representing the Ministry of the
Natural
issues in
resources,
natural resources and Region 10 so
certainly.
eloquently.
Mm.
And I want us to get right into it. You started off that conversation right away heading into the issues in the
Certainly,
gold mining
certainly,
industry,
certainly.
which I know is a big thing,
Big thing.
even not just natural
Mhm,
resource, but even
mhm.
for your region.
Certainly,
Let's talk
certainly.
about that.
Natural resources represent a major part of the economic development of Guyana. More so, it represents within the non-oil sector, pegs back to 5 regions in this country. Natural resources of the non-oil sector will cover forestry, gold, sand, laterite, quarry, and so many other things. And Region 10 is with all of those. But looking at the sector itself, and you look at those different segments of the sector and its management, you see, for example, in gold, 5 years from 2011 to 2015, this PPP government set gold targets at 500,000 ounces up and never hit that target. It took the coalition government from 2016 to 2020 to ensure that we got gold prices not only at 500,000, but 2 years we could have gotten over 700,000 ounces. But what was worse, that was the peak period that the PPP had prices of gold, and the coalition had when prices came down, and yet still made such declaration. But what is the worst indictment on this government in the gold management? That this 5 years of 2020 to 2025, once again, the PPP government could not make back a 500,000 target and have always set the target, including now once again, and have never hit the target. In itself, represents though you have a demand, though you have higher prices, it's the first time gold is touching $5,000. This country cannot supply even to its declaration that it would like to every. So just gold, bauxite, we hear this government speaking gloriously about bauxite. But you ask the workers in Linden, in Region 10, those workers who are now asked to return to Russell when it comes back, that it must be more than jobs. Workers took strike action in December to demand more money from both sides. Workers, 400 plus, were sent home because of the bad behavior of Russell. So as this government speak of bauxite, it must ensure that the treatment of workers are reciprocated in terms of the earnings of these companies. But we can go on, Shanika. The sector is with diamonds, with quarry, and all of this coming from Region 10. The point we were making, these resources are adding significantly to the non-oil sector. And in that significance, we look at those communities, including Region 10. You look at Aichuni, you look at Kukwani, you look at Linden. The state of these communities certainly do not reflect the sort of advancement of these resources in terms of the advancement in the lives of those people. And Region 10 is not isolated. We have 5 regions in this country that are sufficient and significant to the extractive sector from as far as Region 7, 8, 9, 1, and 10. And you look at all of those regions that make up 75% of the landmass, represent 25% of the population, and the state of those regions represent a state of abject need of improvement.
Yeah, and one of the things that we heard coming out as well, even in the talks, with the figures that they would have given, small miners and medium scale miners account for a major portion of that
Certainly.
gold. And they're the ones that are complaining about the burden and the
Well,
strict
Well, let me say this. I'm very annoyed because this budget is such a contradiction of putting people first. And those small and medium scale miners are the first to face the sort of hypocrisy by this government. This government, for the over 2 decades, ran the gold mining and generally the mining sector in such a terrible state that now, to ensure it exact pain, to ensure it sees that which is 500,000 target, it is going after small miners. So we have hundreds of small miners. Even with the 1981 enacted 92 Act that allows for gold bartering in the interior, where miners are using gold to shopkeepers who have license to buy gold, is being restricted right now by this government, which in itself is threatening not only the way of life of those miners, but those said regions and communities we mentioned. There is no bank in Bamadai. There is no bank in the Baghdad. So the business to be done back in the PNC government and the wisdom of Desmondite was to ensure that we establish that sort of environment where we can barter and trade and continue to have a sustainable economy in those locations. Today is being threatened by this government.
And clearly why they can't get the declarations they're looking for.
Well, more than that too, in pushing the small and medium miners out, is deliberate because we have big miners and we have complaints coming in from many of the medium and small scale miners of being pushed off of their concession in favor of big miners.
You you talked about the need to care for people as well in that sector. Going beyond even how they're treating the persons operating the mine. Well, you had the issues in the bauxite company with the treatment of the workers. We even saw death in some in that sector. And what was done for those people during that time, and what other safety mechanisms were put in place? You're not hearing about that in these budgets.
More than just what this is, and this is the wisdom of governments in the past under the PNC, under the coalition, to ensure people meant something in these budgets. The working class, the average Guyanese, putting people first, making the small man the real man was a value of ensuring that this was dealt with. So I can come to those first communities again that are in the extractive zone. And when you speak about putting people first in the state of those communities, and this is why I made the point that a social contract must be established to ensure there's a reciprocal involvement of resources going back, or some level of taking care of those communities occur based on a principal understanding. That is putting people first. You look at when these companies come outside of the community and they're claiming of the provision of jobs, putting people first is to ensure that the framework and mechanism takes care of Guyanese people. Putting people first is an example of what the PNC did in the days with the TUC, where we met with workers and their union and not only negotiated wages, but ensured that they got housing, that they got benefits outside of wages and salaries, they got health care and schooling for their children. That is how you build the holistic man in the Guyanese and put people first. And that is the sort of environment that we are saying does not exist today. And the only claim this government is making is about jobs. And when you look at those jobs, from Aurora Gold Mines, we had strike. From both sides, we had strike. From Araima, workers went off because of the bad treatment. And we are saying there are examples of ensuring that Guyanese are indeed placed first when it comes to these investment and development. But let me just also say, added to that, this is why this government doesn't want to release those contracts. We are signing many gold companies coming in, bauxite companies coming in this year. And this country, the same way the People's Progressive Party demanded of the coalition to see the Exxon contract, which the whole country saw, and which this government benefits significantly from today. Today, this country cannot see one of those 5 major mines that will be coming to Guyana, any one of those contracts. How do we call that putting people first?
As you continue to talk about this budget not putting people first, it's just a talk and a sham. you brought the point out when you came to the region that a budget is put forward for the region without any input of the institution that is set up by law to provide the government with guidance through consultation of that region.
You know that in itself is where you see the real indictment of putting people first, because it's not a benevolence. Article 13 clearly spells out about the involvement of people in the decision-making process that impact their lives. Any national budget is a definite impact on any Guyanese and their lives. And the people of Region 10, in the absence of governance, and this is one of the things we've mentioned in the campaign, that democracy is more than free and fair election. Even though the EU would have questioned the 2025 election, democracy have four more pillars, from ensuring we have rule of law, but one of the most important is good governance. And good governance ensure that institutions work, whether those are the RDC, the municipality, or any institution that will hold government accountable and ensure transparency. Region 10, even with an elected council that was sworn in to date, cannot have a meeting to identify its chair or vice chair so that it could have gotten to work and go out to the communities, aggregate the issues that the people so dearly would like to see in the budget so that they can be represented in the 2026 budget. It was exclusively done by the government. Now, how do you put people first when the people nor their representatives had absolutely no input into the 2026 budget? That in itself is not only the contradiction, but the indictment on this government against the people of Region 10.
You also delved in your budget debate, your speech on the issue of infrastructure and the way the government operates lopsided. There is no working together. And you made the example of a bridge or a road, I believe it was, being built over a very old pipeline that has to be redone.
This again, you know, you have these ministers they claim, Minister Jill said he had 5 post budget indulgence with the people of Region 10. What were the pre-indulgence like? Because if he had listened, persons like the NDC chair, Miss Michelle Simeon, would have said to them, the engineers, that you have a pipe rusting under the airstrip that was being laid down for over $300 million right through, even though with many discrepancies in the strip itself. That strip was nevertheless laid over a pipe that was down there for over 60 years.
Wow.
You can actually see the pipe rotting. So now what will happen is that in soonest time that will collapse. A depression will occur on the airstrip, and we will have to dig that entire strip back up. And that strip has not even opened. It should have been open in December. But because we have flagged and identified those deficiencies, they've not so far went ahead with opening that airstrip. And that is taken away from the people of Kokwani because we saw them advertising flights. So now they've left the road in a deplorable condition. Flights are being available for persons to go in as an alternative. But now when you have the airstrip compromise, you're going to make it more harder for the Kokwani residents, some people who want to go do business, to be able to go conduct business properly.
So true. You described the budget, and I let you run that phrase again, but the one word I pulled out as danger. Describe the budget for us.
You know, Shanika, I'll say this. I speak and I'm so disappointed that the danger in that budget is for those, he who feels it, knows it. I have taken most of my life from chairman of the region number 10, as mayor of the town of Linden, and now as member of parliament, to visit homes, to ground with our people, to walk the communities, to visit every part of the region, and now even extend that to the wider Guyana. And I can tell you, he who feels it knows it. To live on $650 a day could never be a dignifying life. In fact, it is dangerous because there's no telling what a level of desperation can lead to in
Mm-hmm.
many ways. But this is an uncaring government. And the consequences, and that's why I read that last part,
Yes.
not until people see it start showing up and knocking at their doors. At 32%, we now have 58% living in poverty, living on $1,200 a day. In this, the richest country in the world, is indeed a very dangerous situation when it comes to poor people.
Mm-hmm. So how would you describe the budget in 3 words?
Dangerous, bad in precedence, and in terms of what it does for the region, inconsiderate to its overall development. Inconsiderate.
Thank you so much, MP Solomon. It was lovely having you on the floor, and we look forward to more conversations
Certainly.
as we continue to cover the budget debate. We are looking to have our next MP, who should be coming up in maybe less than 5 minutes. Mr. Reyes Rup Narain, Member of Parliament, will be speaking on the floor, and of course, we'll be giving you the coverage, and then we will speak to him. And shortly after him, we will be seeing Mr. Saiku Andrews, Member of Parliament, as well, representing us. So stay tuned so we can keep you updated as we continue on day 2 of the 2026 budget debates.